What am I supposed to do, Shaykha? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to do haram things, but this is just too much. It's like my parents are using religion to overly control me in every way. Is this what it's meant to be like? I literally feel like I'm choking at home.
Look, I can really understand where you're coming from. I think, though, it's very important for us to realise that a lot of parents, they really worry about their daughters, and especially in these times we're living in. You know, they become quite overly cautious about what their daughter's doing. But I just also want to remind you not to let that sort of become a barrier between you and your parents. Like, I'm sure that, you know, your parents are only doing this out of concern, and often it can be their own background that's causing them to, you know, deal with you in this overly cautious way. And ultimately, it's only coming from a place of love. You know, your parents love you, and I'm sure you really love your parents as well.
I do, but they're making it hard for me, especially when it comes to following my religion.
I can totally understand that. And look, I think it can be very overwhelming when all we're hearing and all we're being exposed to are just a whole lot of commands and prohibitions, and we're constantly being told off for doing things wrong. But I think, on the other hand, it's really important that we don't start to associate our deen with rigidness, because that's actually not what Islam came with. And you know, if you look at the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran, like where he says, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Like, he tells us how, you know, he's praising the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of his gentleness, and that it's due to his gentle nature that the people, you know, were gathered around him, and had he been hard-hearted, they would have scattered away from him.
Yeah.
Right? And if we look at how Aisha radiallahu anha describes about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, she tells us that whenever there was two options, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always go for the easiest option, as long as it's a halal option, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the balance we need to be trying to attain in our homes. And you know, this balance that I'm speaking about, it's very similar to the balance we need to have in relation to having love and fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Because if you only have ever been taught about having fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, very often you won't have that real feeling of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So balance here is really the key. And that's where I think it's really important that your parents do look around for lots of halal alternatives for you. I mean, there's so many other things that we can do to replace, you know, anything we feel like we're missing out on. So look, my advice would probably be to you, you know, just to have that quiet chat with your parents, you know, tell them how much you love them, tell them how much you understand why they're worried about you, but, you know, that they can trust you, you know, validate their concerns, but just emphasize how much they are able to trust you, inshallah, and that, you know, ask them to look for those halal alternatives for you. And I just really hope that this will ease this problem for you, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Shaykha. That advice really helped.
You're more than welcome. Anytime, inshallah.